Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Dan here with you as always. We're going to talk a little Milwaukee Bucks, as the Bucks are your NBA Cup champions after they defeated the Oklahoma City Thunder on Tuesday night. But before we get to that, we are going to go to the voicemails. We're going to go to the bat line here. And C-Bomb, again, leaving us a voicemail message on the bat line. Let's hear what C-Bomb has to say.
El Capitano, my Bruta. A little C-Bomb sound off here. Say, I want to know why Tucker Kraft isn't getting the love he deserves. You know, Trey McBride, one of the top tight ends in the NFL, has 415 yards after the catch this year. Tucker Kraft has 375. That's a 40-yard difference. McBride has 109 targets. Kraft has 51. Less than half the targets and almost as many yards after the catch. Tucker Kraft needs to be talked about as one of the top weapons in the league, and Matt LaFleur needs to start utilizing him. Go Pack, go! Let's make a deep run.
So, couple things, C-Bomb, if you're listening to this, with the Tucker Kraft thing. So, I mean, when you mention, you know, him not getting any love, I'm assuming you're referring to, like, from a national perspective and that sort of stuff. You know, when I hear Trey McBride, I guess, you know, the big thing I hear about from Trey McBride as of late is his consecutive catches without he's got like over 80 catches, 70-some catches this year without a touchdown. I mean, that's kind of the thing I hear about mostly with him. Not necessarily a good racking up the yards and the catches, no question about it, but hasn't been able to get in the end zone and such. So, I mean, you know, from a national, I think from Packers fans and people who've followed the Packers and have watched the Packers, they know Tucker Kraft. They appreciate Tucker Kraft. And I think there's some in the NFL that obviously, you know what Tucker Kraft brings to the table. It boils down to, I think a lot of it is box score scouting. When you go to the stat sheets, when you go to the box scores and you filter it by, you know, tight ends, you look at the big numbers. Who's got the touchdown catches? Who's got the yards? Who's got all those catches out there? You look at the big stats, or the famous stats, right? Those yards, those touchdown catches, and the amount of catches out there. So that's where, you know, Tucker kind of falls behind the wayside, but also it kind of feeds into the second part where you say Matt LaFleur has to feature him more. Well, there's only one ball, and there's a lot of playmakers on the offense, right? I mean, I still want this team to focus on running the football behind Josh Jacobs. And then you've got Jayden Reed. You've got Christian Watson. You've got Romeo Doubs. You've got Tucker Kraft all involved in there. And Matt LaFleur has talked about it. Like, yeah, you wish, you know, could get the ball to everybody out there. Everybody wants the ball. Everybody wants to make plays and such. But that's the richness of this offense, is that you have so many weapons to go to, and the style of offense that they're playing is running the football and taking a lot of time off the clock, which limits the amount of possessions that you're going to have on the offensive side of things. So I get it. Maybe you want to see Tucker Kraft more and feature him more and such, but at what expense? Do you want them to rush the ball less? Do you want them not to have Jayden Reed, who's also another weapon on this team, less involved? Do you want, you know, snaps or plays taken away from others? So honestly, I think this team, we saw it last year and we're seeing it this year. It could go every week is a different dude. It's a different dude that's gonna be their game, and that's gonna be their day. I think Tucker Kraft is going to be a fantastic tight end for years to come. You involve him in the blocking game. Heck, even quarterback sneaks now, apparently. Obviously in the receiving department and such. So, yeah, there's probably, you know, if he was on another team, maybe there's more opportunities and such. But at the same time, he's on a team that's really loaded with a lot of offensive playmaking depth over there. So, it's, to me, I like the mindset of the offense right now. It's that run first. We're going to control the clock, control the time of possession. And then if we got to throw the ball, we got to throw the ball. We got plenty of weapons that can be utilized within that. So hopefully that kind of answered your question there, C-Bomb. So, all right, let's switch gears here. Let's talk a little hoops and talk a little Milwaukee Bucks after their NBA Cup championship. Say what you want about, whether you are a believer, whether you acknowledge these as championships or such. Biggest thing for me is, first of all, I'm happy, obviously, that the Bucks won the NBA Cup championship, and I was even seeing some stupid stuff on social media saying they're celebrating too much and all that. But you know what? Stop. Just stop. Anybody that's complaining like, oh, they're celebrating too much for an NBA Cup championship, that doesn't mean a whole lot of that. Nah, come on now. Just, they understand the bigger prize that's at stake here. They understand it. It's clearly evident. Giannis understands it. Obviously Dame, who has not won an NBA Finals, he understands that he still wants an NBA championship overall. They understand the bigger picture. You heard Giannis talking about there. They're not done. This is a stepping stone towards that. To me, again, I will keep saying this, but the biggest thing is that this team's getting better. They're playing better. The chemistry's better. It just feels like, and maybe a little bit of an over-exaggeration, or a little bit of a, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying sort of thing. But the biggest thing I take away from this is that this team overall just continues to improve. Coaching-wise, they're settling into a system. They're settling into a rotation. You heard Giannis talk about the chemistry with him and Damian Lillard. It finally feels like that this Bucks team is at that level and at that how do I want to phrase this? They're just it just feels like it's gelling better right now with this Bucks team. I mean, it was bad at the beginning of the season. You look at last year and how it finished off, and the beginning of this year, and it's like, holy moly, and then you had people talking about, another coaching change and all that sort of stuff. It's finally feels like it's coming together, and finally kind of feeling like this is the style, this is how it's going to work out, this is the rotation, and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just, that's what I'm more excited about, or most excited about, is that this team now, I think, even with the slow starts, and you look at their record, and I know some people are probably just going to box score scout it and take a look at that, like, 14-11, just a team that's 3 games above 500. How good are they really when you got Cleveland, who's sitting at 23-4, or the Celtics 21-5, and OKC, who's 20-5, and that sort of stuff. That don't box score scout. This team is finally playing like one of a team that I think can compete for an NBA championship. I'm not ready to say that they're going to win the NBA championship. Not there yet. A lot is going to depend, and there's still a lot of basketball to be played. I mean, we're like 1/4 of the way through the season here. But they're trending in that direction, and I think the biggest thing now to kind of, at least for me, the biggest thing to follow along with this Bucks team for the rest of the season is going to be, one, health. They're an older team. Can they stay healthy? Can they, stay on the court? Can they still continue to play at a high level? We know Doc Rivers likes to use a little bit of a short, maybe it's a little bit of an expanded bench this year. He's got 4 guys consistently coming off the bench in that. But can this team, with its age, can they continue to stay healthy? Can they continue to stay fresh? Because we know the NBA Finals or the NBA playoffs is an absolute grind, with the best of 5, best of 7 series that are all over the place. So can they continue to have those fresh legs? Can they continue to play at an incredibly high level? Because if this is the Bucks team that we're going to see, that we've seen in the last handful of games, last 10 games or so, this is a team that can absolutely compete for an NBA championship. The biggest thing that we talked about last year and even at the beginning part of this year is that chemistry between Dame and the Greek Freak, Dame and Giannis. And you can finally see it working out. It's been a year and a half. It's been a year and a plus where it just kind of felt it was a little bit off. Now I think it's starting to get there. Honestly, the scary part of this is it probably could continue to get better, right? It could continue to get better at that point. You add in Chris Middleton coming off the bench, and he didn't even play last night. I like this team. And who knows? Maybe they'll make another move towards the trade deadline to help bolster that roster, maybe move on from some guys. Who knows? But right now, I just feel like this Bucks team is in a really, really good spot. and it's not going to get any easier coming off this run in the NBA Cup. They get a couple days here, but they're visiting Cleveland coming up on the 20th on Friday. Top team in the East right now, record-wise. After that, you get a little bit. I mean, Washington, Chicago's on there. Chicago, Brooklyn, Chicago, again over there. But you're coming off of the Thunder, taking them down to win the Cup, and then your reward is Friday. You're back at it on the road, going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. After that, though, I feel like the Bucks have a really good shot to go on a nice run here and stack up a lot of wins. Washington, Chicago, Brooklyn, Chicago. Throw in the Pacers there on New Year's Eve. Brooklyn, Portland, Toronto. You got San Antonio mixed in there. That kind of begins a stretch of games that could be a little difficult. San Antonio, Orlando, Knicks, Sacramento, Orlando. But after this Cleveland game, I feel like the Bucks could go on this run and stack up a bunch of wins. And maybe even and climb those Eastern Conference standings a little bit more. Continue to climb those Eastern Conference standings. Right now, the Bucks are in that 5th spot. You probably want, the biggest thing is when you get into these seedings, I think you'd probably at least want to try to get up in that top 3. Top 4, you're going to get a home court series in the first round, but if you can get in that top 3 and secure that home court, Bucks are a better team at home this year than they are on the road, and that's the case for a lot of these teams, right? A lot of teams are better at home than they are on the road. Some are the weird ones where it just feels like where you look at their records and they're actually better on the road. We've seen that once in a while. We've seen that a few times with teams over there. But Bucks are a much better team, and you want is when you get to the playoffs. Anybody who's been to a basketball playoff game, Bucks playoff game, preaching to the choir there, you know the energy. You can tell it on the radio cast or the TV cast, just the energy over there. So that's the biggest thing now is I don't think the Bucks are going to be able to get a 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, but if you can get in that top 3, at least the top 4. I'd like to see top 3, but if you can at least get in that top 4 and get that home series in that first round, that would be a big boost for this Bucks team. But Giannis again last night, It was a battle between MVP favorites, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was cold from 3-point line. Let's call it what it is. He was cold from 3-point line. Giannis with a triple-double in the championship game. To me, Giannis is still not maybe getting a little bit more love for the MVP talk, and it's obviously incredibly early in this season. But looking at the latest odds, he's tied for 3rd. He's tied for 3rd right now, according to ESPN Bets. So, again, this is what bugs me about the... There's a lot of things that bug me about the NBA. There's a lot of things. And one of them is votes on, MVPs or all this other stuff. And the thing is what's if you go to like odds, I'm looking at OddsShark right now, and this was updated yesterday. The Joker is the odds-on favorite, which fantastic player, but you look at what the Nuggets are doing this year too. They're kind of like the Bucks. They're in the middle of the pack in the Western Conference. So it feels like every couple years when we get to the NBA, you talk about voter fatigue, where some guys or some voters won't vote for a guy again because, like, all right, as soon as they hit 2 or they got a couple, let's move on here. Joker's a little bit different right now at this point in time. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's got the 2nd best odds. According to this one, Luka is 3rd, Giannis 4th best odds to win the MVP. And honestly, maybe those odds go up a little bit more if the Bucks climb the standings. But again, you got the Joker at the top spot. So what the heck's going on over here? My money, I'm still putting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander up there. And I think Giannis should be getting more attention. Giannis should be getting more love in terms of MVP talk right now. Because what he's doing, for as much as we have seen him over the years and just how amazing he has been the last few years here, guys maybe taking it up just another level. You add in, he's got that mid-range game going. Heck, even KG yesterday. I don't know if anybody saw, was it from yesterday, maybe the day before, but Kevin Garnett hanging around the team and such, and talking to Giannis, is like, he's finally got his mid-range game going, his jumper going over there. Take Giannis off this ball club, and the Bucks are easily under 500 at this point. But can we cool it now from the national talking heads about Giannis moving on? Giannis trying to get out of town, trying to go to the Nets or wherever. Let's cool it now. Okay? Let's cool it. Ain't happening anytime soon. The NBA, though, Adam Silver yesterday, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, kind of talking about maybe some potential changes for the NBA. And a big topic of conversation has been three-point shooting. I'm one of those that I'm not the biggest fan of transition threes. I'm a little bit more old school. I like a little inside-outside type of game. I'm not the biggest fan of just chucking up threes all the time. And so far this year, the Boston Celtics are on pace to just absolutely shatter the NBA record for three-pointers attempted by a team. They're on a ridiculous pace. Okay? Get this. Averaging 51.1 attempted threes per game. 51 threes attempted per game. That's insane. Adam Silver saying the answer is yes. We're having many discussions about the style of basketball being played. I would not reduce it to a so-called three-point shooting issue. I think we look more holistically at the skill level on the floor and the diversity of offense, the fan reception to the game, all of the above. I think the game is in a great place. I love watching the games, and I think we have some of the most skilled athletes in the world competing. And it's unfair, I think, to the players to lump them into categories as three-point shooters or a mid-range shooter or big man playing under the basket. It's an amazing game. Having said that, we're constantly having discussions about whether there are ways to improve stylistically the game on the floor. I don't know how you change this. There's one notion out there. Do you put a max of three-point attempts in a game? Intriguing. I don't know if that would work. I don't know what the perfect, probably isn't a perfect fix for this. I would be in favor of lesser threes. I would love to go back, and this is just me being old in that, but I loved me some 90s hoops. I loved the mid-range. I loved, Kobe, Jordan, or whatever, backing a player down and doing a little turnaround jumper and such. I loved, centers back in the day just on the block, whether it was Shaq or even Olajuwon with his sweet turnaround. David Robinson, Patrick Ewing in that. That's the basketball I absolutely loved. So if there was a way to get back to it, that'd be fine with me. I just don't know if that's going to happen. Silver also went on to say, historically, at times, we've moved to three-point line. I don't think that's a solution here because then I think when we look at both the game and the data, I think that may not necessarily do more mid-range jumpers, if that's what people want, but more clogging under the basket. Whether there's some tweaks we should make, and my sense is I do think we should take seriously this notion of more diversity in offense. I watch as many games as all of you do, and to the extent that it's not so much a three-point issue, but that some of the offenses start to look sort of cookie-cutter and teams are copying each other. I think that's something we should pay attention to. He may say it's not a three-point issue. It's a three-point issue. It's teams chucking up threes. I mean, anybody who's got kids who are in basketball or love to play basketball or have their favorite play, they want to shoot threes. I mean, now you got the clips, guys when they're warming up, they're chucking up half-court shots and that because they want to be Steph Curry. They want to be those guys. I help coach second-grade basketball. The guy the player that gets talked about the most amongst those second graders is Steph Curry, and shooting up threes and shooting up long distance. we're doing layup drills and that, and the kids want to stop and shoot up jumpers instead of working on layups because that's what they see and that's what they want to emulate. We all did it at some point as a kid. Whatever sports you were in, you emulated the player you wanted to be, or you emulated the player that was at that best at that point in time. For me, it was, you're emulating, if you're a center, you're maybe emulating a little Shaq, a little Hakeem Olajuwon. You're emulating a little Jordan where, you're doing a little back down, a little shimmy, and then the turnaround fadeaway jumper. Now it's the three-point shot. It's chucking up threes. That's why I feel like when you get back to that conversation of some players who have, affected the game or changed the game over the years, really kind of a big influence. Steph Curry is towards the top of that list. Steph Curry is easily towards the top of that list because of what he has done with the three-point shot. Started off with his college days at Davidson. Badgers fans, we probably remember that game in the tournament. Transitions into the NBA. I don't know what the thing is. The NBA, if there's one league that's going to try some new things or try different things, the NBA is probably going to be one of those leagues that's going to do it. I don't know how you do something if you want to lower your three-point attempts. I don't know how you do it without being too gimmicky and such. But I feel like at some point we may see a little bit of a change with that. One change, though, too, is we're going to see a different format for the All-Star game when it comes to the NBA. For the first time, the All-Star game will feature a mini tournament with 4 teams and 3 games. 2 teams will meet in one semifinal game, and the remaining 2 teams will meet in the other semifinal game. And then, obviously, the winning teams for each of those will face each other for the championship game. For each game, the winner will be the first team to reach or surpass 40 points. This thing might go quick. This might go quick. 40 points. These games might be done with in a few minutes with the way these All-Star games kind of go out there. Each team will have 8 players and be named for a TNT NBA analyst. The 24 NBA All-Star selections will be divided evenly into 3 teams with the rosters drafted by TNT's Inside the NBA commentaries and honorary team general managers Barkley, O'Neal, and Kenny Smith. The 3 analysts will make their respective picks for Team Charles, Team Shaq, and Team Kenny live on TNT in the NBA All-Star Draft. That'll be conducted February 6th. So, the 4th team will be the winning team from the championship game of the Rising Stars game, the annual showcase of the top first and second year NBA players and NBA G League standouts. The voting process to determine the 24 NBA All-Stars will remain the same. So, I don't know. We'll see how it works. I mean, let's face it, the NBA All-Star game stunk the last few years unless you just like high scoring. And again, I've gotten to the point now where I don't really care about NBA All-Star games or NFL Pro Bowl games or anything like that because for me, their main target audience is the younger fans. It's for the younger fans. It's for the kids. It's for those type of fans. It's not for somebody of my age. It's not for me anymore. It's just that's not what it is. So, whatever. If they want to try it in that, is it going to get me to watch it a little bit more? Honestly, probably not. I'll check it out, see how it works, and see what it looks like. But is it going to be like, this is where I'm like, oh yeah, fantastic idea, I'm all in this? Probably not. But I'm willing to give it a shot, see if it plays out. Because you can't go back to what it used to be. It's not the style anymore. It's not, the players don't have that mentality anymore. All right, that is going to do it for us on this episode of the Man Cave Podcast. A little bit of a shorter episode of the Man Cave Podcast, but a big thanks, as always, to our fine sponsors, Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Big thanks to C-Bomb for leaving us a voicemail on the bat line over there. Don't forget you can send me a voicemail. You can send me some texts as well. That number is in the podcast description. Otherwise, it's right here, 715-303-7364. All right, so go ahead and do that. Till next time, I'm Dan Casper. Big thanks as always for tuning in. We'll chat with you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.